morning and thanks for joining us here on this Wednesday. It is June 3rd here on our Facebook Live. I'm sorry, Triad, I'm laughing already because there's like two of you in our monitor.
Oh no, I'm doing it again.
So there's two of you in the monitor and it's just kind of funny. I apologize for that. But now that we're all set, we can continue on. Triad is obviously working from home. There's only one of him, although I do believe every great person should have two. But we'll keep you at one.
Especially Triad, right?
Exactly. Megan Miller is also working from home. Stacey Spivey's here in the studio with me. I'm Tracy McCain. So I guess, Triad, since there are two of you, one of you can do the forecast.
All right, yeah, I guess I'll take it this time, and I'll let my alter ego handle the weather forecast at the end of this. Out there for today, the weather will be very, very warm. High temperatures in the upper 80s to low 90s. I think we'll see plenty of sunshine through the day. Can't totally rule out an isolated shower or storm this afternoon. That a rain chance really less than 10% though, so we're going to stay pretty dry today. Tomorrow, rain chance goes up to 40% during the afternoon and evening, and we'll just repeat that again for Friday and again for Saturday before we see a very weak cold front move in Saturday evening. That'll usher in some slightly less humid and also some slightly cooler air for early next week with high temperatures by Monday only in the upper 70s to low 80s. That's a quick look at your forecast.
Well, it was a relatively peaceful day in Greensboro Tuesday on day 4 of protests for George Floyd and day 2 of a citywide curfew, which expired this morning as of 6. WFMY News Candace Red stopped by downtown Greensboro and has a recap of how the night went.
More than 100 businesses stand in downtown Greensboro. We're talking about restaurants, retailers, hair salons, and so much more. And as you can see, the majority of those restaurants are boarded up to prevent the possibility of vandalism. And take a look right here. Those boarded up walls, well, they're now becoming murals to honor the life of George Floyd. For the 4th day in a row, passionate protesters took to the streets last night to demand justice for George Floyd. They marched on Elm Street, Eugene Street, and Gate City Boulevard. Protesters chanted, "Hands up, don't shoot, no justice, no peace, Black Lives Matter, and say his name, George Floyd." The protesters also made their voices heard in front of the police department. While there, they took a knee and raised a fist to symbolize Black power, solidarity, and an end to police brutality.
We had some rioting, we had some looting going on, but I want the narrative to be, no, this was peaceful. This was a peaceful event, this was a loving event, this was an event of unity. We didn't come to destroy the Greensboro. We came to challenge the city of Greensboro, but we did not come to destroy it.
Well, once the citywide curfew hit at 8 p.m., protesters went home. The protest ended peacefully. Well, for more details on this, all you have to do is visit our website. That's WFMYnews2.com.
There were other peaceful demonstrations in Winston-Salem Tuesday. A march started on 6th Street downtown, where hundreds of people demonstrated for what they said was justice. Organizers say it's important to keep these conversations around racial injustice going, even after everyone goes home for those set curfews.
Well, now that we're seeing more peaceful protests in the Triad just a couple days after a curfew in Greensboro and High Point went into effect, we want to hear from you. I already asked you on Facebook, do you feel safer with curfews in effect, or do you think it's even effective? Weigh in now on our comments below. And guys, I'll just go ahead and start the conversation. We can take a look at those comments in a minute, but I believe that if they are going to keep people safe in this time, that I'm totally okay with it. Now, on a personal level though, growing up, I always had a curfew, and I just remember being so angry about it as a teenager because it seemed like my curfew was so much earlier than all my friends. So I could understand why people don't like curfews. They like to do what they want. But in this case, if law enforcement believes that this is a way that they can keep everyone safe during this time, then I guess I'm okay with it. And I'll start with you, Tracy.
Well, yeah, I think you hit it on the head there. If law enforcement thinks that it's working, then it must be. But I would be interested to talk with them and see if they do in fact think that it's working. I personally don't know. I'm not out after 8 o'clock. I'm home by 2 in the afternoon, and we hang around the house these days. So of course I'm paying attention to the news, but I'm not sure. So it'd be interesting to actually ask our Greensboro city officials and see if it's working here. Winston-Salem doesn't have one and doesn't seem that they needed one. So it'd be interesting to see how the two cities are kind of competing here for that.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look into. Megan, I'll toss it over to you with your take on these curfews.
Well, you know, we've heard of at least 3 arrests for violation of curfew in Greensboro in the last few days, but overwhelmingly it seems like the majority of demonstrators are adhering to the rules in place. They're going home by 8 o'clock and respecting that the curfew has been in place in both Greensboro and High Point from 8 to 6 the past 2 nights. We'll see if the mayors decide to enact it tonight. I used to live in downtown Greensboro, and I think I would have appreciated a curfew being in effect from a work standpoint and having to get up early. So as far as curbing noise after 8 p.m., I think the curfew would have been appreciated at that point. But also we've heard from a business owner in one of the stories we featured on the Good Morning Show this morning from one of the business owners who said she thinks the curfews are a good idea in protecting her business downtown from people who want to cause harm as opposed to being peaceful. And again, we've heard of the majority of those demonstrations being peaceful, especially last night. So we don't want to detract from that at all in talking about this. But yeah, you know, it's an interesting discussion, and we will be hearing from city leaders, I'm sure, today as far as how those curfews are going.
That's right. And Triad, what about you?
Seems like it's working. So, you know, we'll see. I'm sure the city officials have been keeping up with all the data involved in determining how well it's working. So, you know, if it's working, it's working. And, you know, maybe it'll get to the point where they won't need it, because I know people don't like being told what to do, for sure. But I mean, the point of this is not to necessarily be comfortable anyway. So, you know, again, I do, and again, that's just my opinion. I do think it seems to be working. I mean, as far as the level of people getting a little bit out of hand seems to not really be there at this point, thanks to the curfew. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, and obviously everyone has the right to protest if they want to. I think that the point in having a curfew is that once it, you know, at night, once everything kind of shuts down for the night, they're hoping to just keep people safe. Let's go ahead and look at some of the comments. Nadine says, I think curfews are a good idea. Better safe than sorry. Kimberly says, it's sad that they have to even initiate the curfew, but I totally understand it. Meanwhile, Robin says, enough is enough. When will the protesting be over where we elders can get out and feel safe? And then Ty actually said, I don't think it's working. People are still out past 8 in Greensboro, and we are still getting comments flooding in into our section. So keep weighing in, let us know what you think, and continue that conversation on our Facebook stream. But we can go ahead and toss it over to Tracy for our morning headlines.
All right, I'll get to it here with the number of North Carolinians in the hospital fighting COVID-19 now reaching a new high. There are now 716 coronavirus patients in the hospital, statewide 66 more than Monday. Now this graph shows hospitalizations over the past month. That dotted line on the right side shows the 14-day average. And as you can see, it is up slightly. Overall, our state added 626 confirmed cases since Monday, approaching 30,000 cases in total. We've also had our third highest testing day with more than 13,000 tests now completed. President Donald Trump is looking for a new state to host the Republican National Convention this summer. It was scheduled to be held in August in Charlotte, but because of the coronavirus pandemic, Governor Roy Cooper will not commit to allowing a full in-person 50,000 person gathering as the president has requested. Republicans are now considering Nashville, Las Vegas, and Orlando as possible alternatives. Well, temperature checking guests at the RNC is one of the safety measures the committee proposed in its efforts to keep the convention in Charlotte. And that's where we begin our next conversation, Stacy, because temperature checking might be part of our new normal.
Yeah, that's right. As more people head back to their actual offices for work, some companies are now requiring employees to get those temperatures checked every day. Several of you are talking about your experience with this on our Facebook page. So let's take a look at some of those comments. If we can pull them up. There we are. Okay, Mark says, we've been doing it where I work for 3 weeks now and no one's sick yet. And another comment coming from John saying, I get my temp taken with one of these at least 5 times a day. Nowhere near accurate. And Dora says, no, Tyson has been doing this for a few months now, and look at how many outbreaks we had. And just to clarify, Tyson Foods announced 570 of its workers actually tested positive for COVID-19 at its poultry facility in Wilkesboro. So I actually have been tested, or my temperature has been tested when I went to the hair salon a couple weeks ago, and it was very painless. Obviously, they had this little, it almost looked like a little water gun, and they just put it in front of your face. It checks your temperature. You walk in, and I felt safer going in there, knowing that every single person had to be almost screened to be able to go inside. It made me feel better knowing that people in there didn't have a fever. However, the one concern I have is that what if they're asymptomatic and they don't show any symptoms and they don't show signs of having a fever and they still have COVID-19? But I think any way you can prevent something like this from spreading, I'm okay with having it in place. Triad, I'll go ahead and start with you this time on this conversation. Would you be okay if you ever come back to the office with your temperature being checked?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's non-invasive. It takes a second, and it's over. I understand there may be some medical privacy issues that some people might have with it. I definitely understand and get that, but if it's just the temperature, I'm okay with that. Now, I think there might have to be some guidelines as to exactly how high is your temperature before you can't work or something like that, because that could become an issue. Because what if my temperature is 1 degree above average? Or what if my average temperature is at 98.6 is 98.8, there might be some guidelines that they put in place, but at its core, I don't have a problem with it.
All right, Megan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I've said before in the Good Morning Show, I almost wonder if temperature checks is kind of a violation of personal space. We've been talking about the 6 feet of distance and how it's important to put that between you and other people. So if someone's in your face, even with a mask on and a temperature thermometer, I might feel a little uneasy about someone checking my temperature. That said, I'm sure I understand the safety aspect of being more comfortable being in a salon environment like you mentioned, Stacy, or going back to work if I knew that people were getting their temperatures checked. That said, we do know that sometimes it can take anywhere between 2 to 14 days for the onset of symptoms. Even though a fever is one of the most common side effects of COVID-19, it can take a little bit for a person to develop a fever, and not everybody is going to develop a fever. Some do not have that as a side effect of COVID-19. So a lot up in the air, but obviously this is an option for businesses to do if they feel like it is going to make a difference, or at least make their customers feel more comfortable.
I totally agree, Megan. Tracy, what about you? What do you think? Do you think you'd be okay with having your temperature taken?
Well, I don't know if they work or not, but I do know that they're more common now. Going to the dentist, I certainly had my temperature checked. That was one of the policies that my child's dentist sent over, went through email saying this is what you can expect when you come to our office in a few weeks. So we have signed up for a little day camp. Camps are now allowed as part of phase 2 starting June 1st. And so my son is doing a little, 1.5 hour art camp, and he had to have his temperature checked before going in. And they're only like 5 kids, so they keep it very small. And everybody is spaced out. But at one point, we had to wait in the car as, other people went in. And then when it was your turn to go in, they called you and said, okay. So we were in the car, and I don't know why, but I just had the windows open. I had the AC off, so he's a little warm. And we went to the door, and they were like, oh, you've got a little bit of fever. And oh my God, he lost it. And he's like, no.
Oh, no.
I know. But they were able to, tell him, well, we'll check it back in 3 minutes. Sure enough. It was just the fact that, he'd been in the car for a little bit with me. Of course, I was in there too. But don't turn off the AC until it's time to
in
go
mind.
in. Until it's time to go in. But, you know, it's hard to explain that to a child, you know. Oh, sorry, we're here, but you can't go inside. And so that's where it kind of gets tricky. So I was glad that they gave them an opportunity to kind of regulate a little bit. But it is more common. And hopefully it does work, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, and I think in those situations, you know, there'll be more understanding of certain circumstances. A lot of people already weighing in on this. I want to share some comments with you. Amy says, we have questions that we have to answer and get our temperatures checked to work. I had to do this at my physical therapy appointments as well. I have no problems doing that at different places. And then kind of Tracy, what you were talking about, Amber said people run temps for a lot of reasons. And she mentioned someone possibly having a medical condition that may have their temperature spike. So maybe that's something that you have like a doctor's note for to explain why you're running a fever. Nadine says definitely we have been doing them since the very beginning of phase 1 at work. But Peter says 3 months and no help. So I guess it's not working for them. Let's see. A lot of comments, just trying to filter through them so I can share them with you guys. But go ahead, keep weighing in. We love to chat with you about these different social conversations that we have. But something that we always look forward to is a look at our forecast. And guys, I think that you're going to want to, well, I don't know, crank up the AC probably today, right, Triad?
Yeah, that would certainly be good advice as we see temperatures soar into the upper 80s to low 90s, not only today, but again tomorrow. Today, can't totally rule out an isolated shower storm, mainly in the mountains, but then the rain chances go up a little bit more for the afternoon and evening hours, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday up to 40%. And then Saturday night, a weak cold front moves through. Temperatures drop a little bit, the humidity drops a little bit. And so by Monday, we'll see highs only in the upper 70s to low 80s.
You know, when it gets that hot, you know, you might as well just put a question mark, you know, over the numbers. Like, you know, I don't know how high it's going to go. 89, 90, yeah, what's a degree here or there? You know,
it really doesn't make a difference.
It's
really.
all right.
89 feels like 90. Nobody really cares except us weather nerds.
Exactly. I do think it's helpful, especially in the winter, because there's a difference between 32 and 31, you know?
This is true.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But in the summer, it's just all hot. Mm-hmm. Hot. So, I don't know, just my take, because I always have a take on something, right? All right. Thanks so much for joining us on After GMS. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for all the comments online. Stacey's done a great job trying to find things that can keep you guys in the loop and conversating and talking. So, great job, Stace. And I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow right here at 7:45. Take care.